So I've been having a pretty rockin' existential crisis, redefining, reconstructing my relationship to God and how I'm living my life, and pretty much my whole belief system has been in the process of reworking itself into something more true to this moment. And I'm noticing that it's really different having an existential crisis now as a mom and a business owner, um, as a wife, than it was when I was 19 living out of my backpack. And I'm realizing that that's probably a big reason why we adults become so stagnant, because we have all of these responsibilities that are built on all of these belief systems that get outdated. And it becomes a really big pain in the ass to upgrade them because it's unstable. It's unstable not knowing what you believe, not having a firm relationship to God and your life. So, I'm going to talk to you today about a few things that you can do to make sure that your adult existential crisis is rocking and that you are able to keep functioning and doing the good things you do in the world while you're in your, maybe it looks like upheaval. So the first thing, number one, is that you want to support um, a you want to support existential crisis in your life. Like, rather than being blindsided by some new piece of information or some new idea or some new experience that just completely throws you off your strongly built paradigm, you want to practice having an open mind around your beliefs, and even be exploring new beliefs that you want to be taking on. So that means reading, meditating, just generally having a lifestyle that supports your growth and your consciousness expansion. That way, it's already part of your life. When things stop feeling stable and clear, then you have a whole way of living that helps you reconfigure that. So it's kind of like having an intentional existential crisis constantly. And then it stops being a crisis and just starts being intentional existing, aware, awakened existing. The second thing that I want to instill in you so that you can have a rockin' existential crisis is to set up a life that supports these kinds of inquiries. So that means if you're married, having a relationship that supports you changing and evolving, where you're questioning these kind of fundamental belief systems, um, is supported, expected, and really just appreciated, rather than it being like, why are you thinking about all these things? Can't you just like keep doing what you're doing? And the same thing in your career. You want to you want to make sure that everything that you're doing now is really an up-to-date version of, or an up-to-date expression of your current values. So that way, when your values shift, you're not dealing with something that's super duper duper way outdated. For me, for my example, I have a business here where um, there are certain themes that I work with. There are certain, I get on a bit for a little while and I'll talk about that for a while. But then when my consciousness shifts, I have an audience that's engaged and interested in whatever's there next. So I'm not locked into talking about sex or talking about, um, whatever. There's flexibility in my work where I'm really supported in exploring whatever's there for me. And that is because my business is built on something that is more foundational than my belief system. It's built on the basic premise of creating out of love. So that's applicable even if you have a 9 to 5er. You want to be making sure that the next steps you're taking in your business or your career are always in line with who you are now, rather than who you were 2 years ago when you made that plan or you first took the job or when you were getting your degree. You want to make sure that it's relevant now. And that's going to be, if you're doing that every step along the way, then you're not going to have to tear down the whole thing every time you have an existential crisis. The third thing that I want you to be aware of is that it's really easy to get stuck in your head and get really significant and act as if nothing can happen, you can't do anything until you get all your beliefs sorted out and you find that stable ground again. And that's just not true, and it's not actually going to help you find any answers. People are really, really good for an existential crisis. You want to be talking about it. You want to be getting out there and talking about something else. One of my very favorite moments of last week was me going on and on complaining about how I'm having all this instability and dealing with all these things that I'm dealing with. And a good friend of mine who was listening to me talk, she stopped me and she was like, wait a second. Your program started? She was speaking about my Liberation Mastermind group. That's great! And it was just like a slap in the face to my crisis, where I had it in my head that I was dealing with all this stuff, there's all this struggle, and she woke me up to the fact that I was actually in the midst of one of the greatest successes of my career. So when you have other people getting involved in your processing, then you actually get doorways out of your own trapped mind thinking, and you get it's a new resource to explore new ways of thinking and new levels of your consciousness, which is really what an existential crisis is all about. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. I wish you the most rockin' existential crisis of your life, and tell me all about it in the comments below.